So what's going on guys, Kids here and welcome back to a brand new video. For today I will show you the best Esiemo build in the first Descendant. So in this build guide I will show you what weapons and modules you want to get. Then I will explain every single skill and show you the best reactor stats and external components. And then lastly we will take a closer look at the gameplay and weapon mods, so you would be able to get the best results and highest damage possible and much more. If this sounds interesting to you, then let's get right into it. So then let's move over to the build. Esiemo is all about explosions, and even more explosions. He's an amazing ranged burst damage dealer that is capable of clearing trash mobs in a second, while nuking bosses at the same time. You want to play Esiemo in a mid-range, close enough to stick to the enemies with your grenades and landmines, while far enough away that you won't get swarmed and die. The key is maneuvering through the battlefield, either way by laying traps for the enemies to walk through or bursting out large held targets. The most important part of dealing massive damage is stacking grenades onto a single target. You must stick grenades on a target by throwing them or placing mines for enemies to trigger and have a bunch of grenades attached. Each grenade attached to a target increases its damage done, so it's extremely worth to wait until you can place multiple stacks at once. And once you have enough grenades, which is up to 5, then you can detonate them all at once to deal massive amounts of damage. And because of our specific setup, we will increase its damage by 200% on top of the already big stacks that we get from other skills. So then with that said, now let's take a look at our build modules. And like per usual, I will show you two setups. So the first build will be for leveling, so from 1 to 30, and then the endgame build, which is from level 30 and beyond. So first of all, for the leveling build, I recommend to use the cluster grenade, which is a transcendent mod, that when you detonate an attached grenade, it creates additional explosions. Then skill range mastery, that improves the range of your skills. Then increased shield, that increases your max shields. Then fire specialist, which increases the skill power of your fire skills. Then skill expansion, that increases the effect range of your skills. Then focus on fire, that improves the skill power of your fire skills and slightly reduces the skill cooldowns. Then dual claw, that changes your sub attack to a dual claw attack. It also increases your max module capacity. Then willpower efflux, that increases your defenses and slightly improves HP. Then increased defense, that increases your defensives. Then increased HP, which increases your max HP. And finally the technique manual, which does that when landing a skill, it deals a portion of your max HP as extra damage to the target, but it has an 8-second cooldown per enemy. And then now let's move over to the endgame build. So I recommend to get the multi-maneuvering, then maximize power, then increased HP, then increased shields, then front lines, then fire specialist, then HP planter, then iron defense, and lastly the skill expansion. Then next up, let's take a look at the best weapons and mods that we should use. So for our weapon loadout, the first one is the Greg's Reversed Fate, which is the new meta weapon. This firearm causes an AoE bombardment upon hitting a target with max shields. Overall, this weapon is the best for burning and increased fire rate. And for the mods, we want to attach the Fire Conductor, Fire Enhancement, Sharpshooter, Rifling Reinforcement, Adventurer, Fire Rate Concentration, Deadeye, Inside Support Ammo, and Commando Marksmanship. Then for the second weapon, we want to use the Tamer Machine Gun, with mods like the Toxic Enhancement, Fire Rate Up, Reload Insight, Peak Point Aiming, Rifling Reinforcement, Better Insight, Poison Priority, Pinpoint Shot, Hawkeye, and the Adventurer. And finally, for our third weapon of choice, we have the Restored Relic Launcher, that is the ultimate weapon, a weapon that demonstrates at least a small portion of the overwhelming technical powers of the ancestors. It has a built-in function that fires a guided rounds, and on hitting an enemy with a guided round, it inflicts ancient fire to the targeted enemy with a set chance to trigger a fire rate for 3 seconds, which will deal insane amount of damage. And then for the mods, we want to get the concentration priority, that makes that our reloading is quicker and firearm critical damage is improved. Then rifling reinforcement, which significantly improves your explosive attack then concentrate support ammo, which gives you more rounds per magazine, and slightly improves the firearm critical hit damage. Then action and reaction, that improves the explosive attack and recoil. And finally the fire rate up, which significantly improves your fire rate. Then next up, let's go over to the best reactor stats. So your reactor is very important item that determines your skill damage and can also include extra modifiers that buff certain aspects of your build. The better your reactor is, the more damage your skills will deal to enemies. I recommend prioritizing using a reactor with the highest skill power and a sub-attack power. My best job that I got is this burning mixture reactor that has insane skill power and has the best optimization condition that because we use the Greg's reversed fate, we get even more boosts to our overall DPS. And then second of all, we have the external components. They're even more of an RNG, at least until you've played the game for long enough to find basically every single possible combination with a good stat roll. For our build specifically, I recommend to get the components with max shields, max HP, shield recovery in combat or defenses, as our build needs all of these stats, so you can stack them all together, or just use whatever best job you got. And finally, let's take a look at our skills. The first passive skill is called the Advantageous Habit, that drops a grenade on the ground when our shield is completely depleted. Then our first active skill is the Time Grenade, that launches a sticker grenade forward. The grenade attaches to an enemy or a terrain on the contact. Then the second one is Blast, which instantly detonates an attached grenade. Its damage increases with the number of attached grenades. Then next up we have the Guided Landmine, that places a guided landmine at your current location. Once placed, the guided landmine will fly to an enemy with its detection range and attach to it. And finally, we have the Arch Explosion that starts moving forwards fast. On collision with an enemy while charging it, it will inflict knockback. When the movement ends, it deals damage to nearby enemies and removes buffs from them. After the skill ends, Esiemo enters the Madness state. Arch Explosion is one of the most powerful ultimate skills in the game. The only downside to this is that it has a long cooldown, therefore you only want to use it if absolutely needed. After the skill ends, you get Madness for 10 plus seconds, which will increase your firearm 80k by a lot, so make it count. Let's quickly go over a few tips and tricks. Without mobility skills, healing, shields or tankiness skills, Esiemo can be quite squishy. However, he does have the advantage of his skills being mostly ranged, keeping him at a safe distance. You want to play cover and feel free to retreat to safety to recharge your shields should you take too much damage. Also, your grapple can be a great tool to allow you to get into mob of enemies, place grenades and then retreat to safety before detonating them. Esiemo has two skills that are timed and will explode eventually. However, you can decide to trigger these explosions sooner. This can be done by killing an enemy with an attached grenade or activating your blast skill to instantly explode all the attached grenades. 1 or 2 grenades are enough to take out most of the enemies. Tankier enemies might need several, with bosses needing multiple maximum grenade stacks to take out. And finally, the most important part of dealing massive damage with the Esiemo is stacking grenades onto a single target. You must stick a grenade on a target by throwing them or placing mines for enemies to trigger. Each grenade attached to a target increases its damage done, so it's extremely worth to wait until you place multiple stacks at once. And once you have enough, which is usually maximum of 5, then you can detonate them all at once to deal massive amounts of damage. And that's about it. So with that said, I really do appreciate everyone for watching guys, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions or suggestions, then feel free to leave your comments in the comment section down below. And while you're doing that, please click like, subscribe and enable that notification bell, so this way you could support the channel and not miss any more amazing content. With that said, you have an amazing day and I will see you in the next one, so take it easy, peace.